Good evening, and welcome to This Week in Joe's Basement. I'm Joe, and this is my basement. So, this week in Joe's Basement, we're going to do a follow-up on our sort of classic study of race relations, Sledgehammer Diplomacy, which we filmed about 2 years ago. So this week, we're going to update you on that difficult and touchy situation and look for some answers. But first, the usual viewer mail. Where's the comrade's letter, John? Here we go. The comrade, an intriguing friend of ours with a very deep voice, who called in with some wonderful suggestions in our last viewer call-in show, has submitted his real name, which is Henry Winecheck. He's not ashamed of it. And the following letter. Dear Joe, I was thrilled to be on your viewer call-in show. Your show is the only decent thing I've seen on television in a long time. Please keep doing your show. The alternative is too awful to consider, like 4 more years of bush quail. I would have gone to Canada, I don't know about you. 1 hour of Bill Fisher. If it is possible for me to do anything to assist you in attacking the poverty of ideas in modern television, I would be happy to help. What you do is worthwhile, not because you are ranting on a soapbox, we've had enough of that in the elections, but you hit parts of the brain that are not conducive to selling beer and cars and issues of transient importance. Confusion. Surprise. Huh? And outrage. What the fuck is that? Things that hit the mind at a strange angle are incendiary. It's like going to Woodfield Mall, but accidentally discovering that you're in Dada Land Mall. Why, honey, I think I'm going to get that darling meat hat I've always wanted. Any medium which allows Cindy Crawford to sing may be beyond redemption, however. Signed, the comrade, who offers closing holiday wishes. We got a season's greetings card from our friend Von Him, who says, Zum Deuken Eck has the best New Year's Eve party this side of Hoffman Estates. Pardon my German. I think he's referring to a local restaurant. Thanks him. And our viewer who refuses to give his real name, but offers much healthy criticism instead, usually in regular doses, continues on a postcard here. Joe, sorry I've not had time to harass you lately, but was busy sunning in Florida where I had this pic taken in the full bloom of my tanity. Am I not a cool-looking dude? And him, who, from various comments of his, including his outburst of German earlier, seems to be someone of European descent. The picture on the other side seems to indicate that he's undergone a rather radical transformation. My question is, where are the videos from the 50th episode party? Him claims to have been at our party. He should know what it was like. But, all right, I'll oblige you. We do have some video from that. Or did I miss it, only to see another viewer call-in show where the viewers again prove that they are neither clever nor funny? Signed, him, in the spirit of peace on earth and goodwill towards men. Always good for a little vinegar and bile. Well, I'm out of mail, so on to the substance of this week's show, which is a follow-up on our look at race relations. So again, we approach this in the same way we did before, which is by simply asking black people, what do you think of white people? And white people, what do you think of black people? Simply and directly. Trying to smash down the barriers of polite conversation and get to what people really think about this difficult, as I said, issue. So, well, the first time we did this, It was really just quite a novelty for us to ask such a blunt question. Especially surprises white people. I think black people actually talk about this. So this time, though, I hope that we look to get into a little more depth into some of the specifics and maybe even look for some answers to that problem which has been with us for a long time, race relations in the real world, this week in Joe's Basement. What do you think of white people?
What do I think of who?
White people. Come on, let's hear it.
I think they do a lot of wrong things. I think they are the supreme being, and they have very little respect for certain people that I think is wrong. Say for black people and probably Mexicans. I think that's wrong.
So you think that white people are racist, basically, or many of them are?
I think so, yes.
What kind of experiences have you had with this, white people?
They have whipped me.
Really?
I said it, didn't I? I don't joke.
No, I totally believe you. Could you please explain, like how this happened?
Like I didn't want to work one day and stay at home. When I went to the job, they whipped me the next day.
Your boss did?
Some of them, 2 or 3 of them, yeah.
What do you think of black people?
I don't think much about them. I mean, I don't give it much thought. They're even with me, I guess.
Do you have a lot of experience with black people?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Odessa, Texas.
Is it a small area of Texas? What city?
Odessa, Texas. It's about 100,000 people.
And how have your experiences been?
From my experience, it's been all right. Never had any problems. Why would you ask a question like that for?
Well, different people feel differently about this. And in particular, a lot of black folks we've talked to feel that racism in America, white racism towards blacks, is worse now perhaps than it ever was. Do you share this opinion?
No, they're probably right, I'd hate to trade places with them,
Of white people?
Yeah.
They're people too. People are people. That's the way I look at that. People are people, no matter any color under the rainbow. We have it. We're all the same, really. You show me a person whose blood isn't red, and then I'll have something to say about that.
Gotcha. Have you always felt this way? What have your experiences been like with white folk?
Well, of course, since my ancestors were slaves coming up, I don't feel that being in America that we get a total fair deal. It's just because of the past, and that's it, But I don't have anything specifically I can say that against white people, really, because I have some white friends, and of course you have some black friends, and you're white,
Right.
Black people? I like black people.
You do?
Yeah.
A lot of black friends and that sort of thing?
Actually, yeah, I've got a few black friends. I mean, not tons and tons of black friends, but actually, I'm moving. I'm just coming from Dallas, and I'm moving to New York. I've never been here before, but anyway, Dallas is the kind of city that's more. It's a little more segregated, and that there's and it seems like here, and especially in New York, it's very integrated, and I like that a lot more. But in Dallas, it's just definitely it's like the white neighborhood, the black neighborhood, the Mexican neighborhood, or whatever. But yeah, I don't have a problem with black people. I like black people. In fact, I love I like black music. Funk music is my favorite kind of music, and that's what I'm totally into. And
was this a regular practice? What job did you have at that time?
What is a regular practice in Texas? You know more about it than I do.
Actually, I've never been to Texas.
Well, you know about it. You don't have to go.
Actually, the younger generation, like myself, we're pretty sheltered from this sort of thing, and we're taught that it doesn't happen anymore. That
well, don't let them tell you that. That's a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you remember what job you were working at when your white boss whipped you?
In a sawmill, yeah.
Would he do this to maybe any black man who showed up late or something, or didn't do what he wanted him to do?
I don't know about that. I'm telling you about what happened to me.
That's fair. That's fair. Have you had other instances like this in your life of bad confrontations and unfair confrontations with whites?
I've had lots of them, more than I care to try to explain.
What do you think about black people?
I have no objections. I have no about black people.
Yes, that's right.
I don't have no objections. So that's it.
They still hold a lot of bitterness from when they were brought over, and it keeps being reinforced through every generation. I think the parents install it into their minds still, and I think it keeps happening. It's not stopping, and it's just getting worse and worse, and I'm kind of afraid to see what'll happen from it.
Do you think that generations of black families are teaching and passing on racism?
Yeah, I honestly do. Yes, I do. Definitely, I would say more than whites do. My father never told me anything different. That's my father there. Never told me anything different. Never ever made any kind of reference to black people being any different than us other than color, or, looking down upon them, anything like that. But I, just from the way I've seen, I also observed little kids, and all my life have noticed that
Little black kids?
Yeah, that it's more installed into them than it is into white little kids.
Anything you'd like to see done differently as far as race relations in this country and so forth?
Actually, I think what can be done is retributions from the slavery, because we as black people as a whole, we can never rise up to the point where white people are in this country. We can never rise up that way because it didn't start off fair, and it can never be equal. It'll never be that way. We just have to live here in as much peace as we possibly can, I guess.
Right. What sort of retributions are you thinking about? Money, or how can the white man possibly repay his debt to you?
It'll be, I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I could say money, but then money, we can take money and buy drugs with it, you know what I mean? Right. So money really won't do it. It's just got to be a joint effort on the black people's part. We have to have land, really. We have to have land and materials like that where we can use and just grow things and just live in peace. But money necessarily won't do it. We need the things that money can buy. That's what we need, which is land and property. That's what we need, and which we don't have.
You think that's what's holding the black man down?
Exactly. We don't have any unity. Without the land, we don't have any unity at all.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever feel any guilt when you approach black people? Or maybe if you see a black man like some of the fellows who are living in this train station, for example, because they're homeless?
Not really any personal guilt, but like kind of maybe a little cultural type guilt, maybe like a little shame, maybe of, because you wouldn't have to go very, very many generations back probably to find in almost any white families probably go very many generations back to find some serious wrongdoings,
What would you say to a black person who approached you and said that they felt that racism in this country was perhaps worse than ever? What would you say to such a person?
I don't know what to tell them. I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't know how to tell them anything about that.
Would that surprise you? Would you agree with him?
No, I wouldn't agree with him. I don't believe in that, see? So that's it.
So you don't think that white-on-black racism is a big problem in this country right now?
No, I don't think so. Not as far as I'm concerned, it isn't.
Given that you came, as you say, from a rather segregated city, has it always been that easy for you to mix with and get along with black folks?
Yeah. Pretty much. I can remember when I was a kid, and it was like, those, and well, I shouldn't say all parents, but but my parents, were teaching us to be prejudiced against not just black people, but all kinds of people, when we were kids. And, they're mean, don't bother them, they'll beat you up, they'll steal from you, and blah, 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 blah. I don't know if all kids have that when they're little, but I don't know. But, so maybe, like when I was a kid, I think I was afraid of other black kids because of what my parents told me. And then later it was like more so when I was like coming out of middle school and getting into like high school, and that's when it was more of like, well, it's fine to have black friends. They're okay. They're not going to beat me up, and they're nice people, and I can trust them, and whatever. It doesn't matter, what color your skin is or whatever, what your orientation of anything is.
So you went from perhaps a segregated school to one that was more integrated. Is that what happened to you?
I did. In fact, the high school that I went to was a magnet high school. Yeah, it was very integrated.
Do you think that other white Americans could learn from your experience, coming from a background of prejudice and rising above that?
I don't know. I I hope so. Because that's one of the reasons why I'm leaving. Why I wanted to leave Texas and get out of that part of the country, is to get away from that mentality.
What I think of black people? Nothing. I go to De La Salle High School. It's on 35th in Michigan. About 50% of the kids are black, and most of them are my friends. And basically, I treat them like my friends. I mean, there's no difference really.
So for you, this is not a big issue, or you don't consider yourself to be at all racist?
At all. It's no big issue, to me at least.
Gotcha.
Some people, they think differently.
So you don't see a situation where the white man's putting the black man down anymore?
Now?
Yeah.
No. Before I could see that, yes. But now, no. Everything's equal, and everybody seems to be acting pretty equal. Although there are a couple, there's some people that don't, and then there's some white people that don't, and there's some black people who still think they are oppressed.
What did you want to be when you were growing up?
Honestly, I never wanted to be anything. I've always been contented, with what I have, and I guess it was because it seemed that I would never have anything, so I just got content with what I had.
What have your own experiences with black folks been like?
Mine? Well, of course, I'm half Jewish and half Puerto Rican. So on my father's side, my father's side, I would say it would be African or black, whereas my father's mother's side is Arab. And of course, my mother is Jewish. I was born in Hyde Park, where your program is located. Yes. But my own experiences have been, I've went to Wadsworth School on the southeast side there, and would have gone to Hyde Park High School. But then we had moved because of the rioting that went on. This has to do with the 1966, the Blackstone Rangers. And my dad was one of the few Puerto Ricans who resisted and stood up for his rights. But eventually he was, he had left and went to Puerto Rico. This caused my family to have a divorce, my mother and father divorce.
Ouch.
And my mother experienced extreme racial remarks and was almost at one time attacked. So she decided it was time for us to move. I went to school with the black people. I grew up with the black people, but I have seen even amongst the black people an excessive racism is found in the black Mohammedan, what I call the black racist, or the I would call them the antithesis of the Ku Klux Klan, and that's Louis Farrakhan and his black Mohammedan. Now, of course, Malcolm X did not advocate the total destruction of the white people, right, what they called blue-eyed devils. So I was held up not too long ago by a black man, had a .38 revolver placed in the back of my neck. I was going to be killed. And so I could easily, go along with the whites and say, well, the blacks are all bad, but they are not. One of my best friends is in Aurora. I went to school with Darrell Williams. His father was in the Air Force.
Do you ever think the white man is putting you down in any way, or prejudiced against you?
In some cases, yeah, I've run into prejudices. I would be lying if I said I didn't. See. Right. But as long as it doesn't affect me, to a point where I feel like I'm being violated, you know what I'm saying, physically. I've been in the world for 50 years. I know how to handle certain situations, so I don't let it bother me to a point where I get physical or psychologically upset about it, see. I learn how to live with the conditions as they are around me, And as long as they don't try to physically, harm me or violate me, I'm fine.
But it's definitely still there, And but like I said, not just for black people, for all kinds of people that are different and all kinds of minorities, there's that mentality in the South, and I definitely want to be away from that.
Have you experienced problems with this yourself?
Well, yeah. Being a gay male or whatever, yeah, I have experienced prejudice like that. So
maybe this, since you've perhaps experienced prejudice yourself, maybe that's also made you more sympathetic.
Right. Probably, yeah. Right. I was gonna say that could be a big part of it. Yeah. So
we need good public housing, very good public housing, and education for all. Black people should be free anywhere we want to go. That's what I believe.
So free education, housing.
Yes, and that's basically it, and land.
How do you feel about, you know, in general though, about welfare and handouts? I mean, do you think that's good for people?
I think it could be. It's just help, really. Every man should help his fellow man if he can. If a person needs food, if a person needs welfare, they should be able to have that. And I think so. Yeah, that is pretty good. But we can get lazy. I won't say lazy, but we can get used to that, and we'll think that's the highest we can go on the totem pole, but it's not, you know.
Do you think that you owe the black man anything?
As a white man, yeah. I think that white men in particular have kind of been running the show for a long time, and yeah, they do owe something back. I'm not sure exactly how it can be given back. It's not just a sum of money or something like that, but something has to change, and the white men are in power. So yeah, definitely.
Maybe, you know, it's wrong that they were brought over, and maybe they do get unfair treatment, but they also have a lot of scholarships out there, a lot of things to help them that don't help me personally. Right. So I think there are a lot of good opportunities, and I think they focus on the negative rather than the positive. I think there's a lot of positive going on out there for them, a lot of opportunities.
Do you think the white man owes you anything?
Yeah, I think he owes me 40 acres and a mule. I'm still waiting on that. You know. Yeah.
So you think that every black man should get a free dispensation of land and property enough to get started?
Well, yeah, that would help to get them started, I think, yeah.
Don't want anything but an equal chance. Don't have to give me no breaks. Just let me illustrate my ability, and I'll make it.
But you don't feel you've had that chance?
Oh, no, you know you don't. Why ask me?
You're brought into the world, and pretty much from then on, you make your own life. And just because they were brought over 200 years ago, so was I. Maybe I want to live in Holland, but hey, I was brought over here. I don't have a choice. I'm not bitter about that. That was my.
Well, you weren't, of course, you weren't carted over like luggage, you weren't enslaved, so.
Right, and I think of that, but it's also time to let some things go. There's nothing that anybody can do about the decisions that were made 200 years ago. There's nothing any of us can do, so let it go. And
you think it's all over and done with then?
I think it can be a lot more done and over with if it was more focused on the positive rather than the negative.
If I work at the job that I can get, it's probably about a $4 an hour job or something. That's nothing but slavery right there, really. It's nothing but.
Do you have a college education?
No, I don't.
So, being a black man without a college education, you think a $4 an hour job is what you can look forward to?
That's still a slave. I'm still a slave. I have chains probably. It's on my mind though, because I can't climb up, man.
Do you think that you owe the black man anything?
No, I don't. Somebody else might, but I don't, you know.
Who's that?
I have no idea, you know, whoever they're talking about, but I don't think I owe anybody anything.
Well, just respect and equality, you know? I would just, but that's how I try to look at everything, and that's how I try to treat everybody. Everyone else I see is the way that I want them to treat me. So
maybe respect is the debt that is owed itself, huh?
Yeah.
Perhaps that's more effective than any monetary payment.
That's what I think.
What do you have to say for the white man, especially maybe a member of my generation, the younger generation, who says that he's completely, not racist at all against blacks and he's completely free of guilt?
I can't say anything about that. He could not be. It's a lot of nice people that are not racist, and young people.
And I believe, I've always believed this, that the Hispanic, I'm speaking from my father's side, has always been a bridge of peace between the black and the white, or the Caucasian and the African. Okay, and I also believe that the Jewish people have always been that bridge, likewise, here in the United States as well as throughout the world. And when that is removed, that element is removed, then you have grave problems. We can see that when the Jewish race left the Soviet Union, it folded. Why? They're an element of cohesiveness in society. They've always been for civil rights, backing the oppressed, helping the oppressed. The Statue of Liberty, for example, Emma Lazarus, Send me, you're poor, you're tired. I can, of course, directly quote that,
Yes.
you know? But what I'm saying is that on both sides, my mother's side as well as my father's side, I have learned to try to utilize my experiences.
And your diverse Jewish, Puerto Rican, African heritage.
Yes, I would say more Puerto Rican, but there's Arab too now on my father's side. So there's, I'm troubled though because I think some of the black people, for instance, here in the city of Chicago, we saw a progressive movement with Harold Washington. He was from Hyde Park. Hyde Park was, of course, a very heavily, it's a melting pot. To me, I see it's an area, and it's a prosperous, Lawrence Bloom, I remember talking with him. If we would increase this progressive element within even the city council here in Chicago, then there would be such a success here in Chicago that I don't think the world has yet to see that.
I have never seen a lot of conflict between races in my own personal experience. The most conflict I have observed has been either in newspapers or on television.
So do you think the media maybe exaggerates the impact of racism or racial conflict in this country?
Not necessarily, but it certainly does promote focus. Okay? I think it's really, we tend to focus on problems rather than situations that are not problematic. And then the reason we do that is that problems generate drama.
I don't think like my mother. I don't think it's that bad to where she would. She's not going to strike out and do anything bad to black people. But it's definitely this opinion. But she keeps it to herself. But still, it's something that she thinks.
Yeah, how do you perceive that your parents, or say, act on their attitudes towards blacks?
I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that. She would actually act out in a negative way towards black people.
So you don't see her, I don't know, mistreating blacks in any way, or?
Not at all. Not at all. She wouldn't do. She's not like that. But like I said, it's something that she thinks, but she just keeps it to herself. But I was trying to tell her that she shouldn't feel that way. It shouldn't be a problem. It's not a big deal. And And
I guess she's never been confronted with this situation, huh? Like, what if you were to? Let's see. What if I was going to say, what if you would marry a black woman? But anyway, right. let's throw the sexuality issue aside. If you were to, or a black man for that matter.
Right. That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know what she would say. That would definitely that would definitely get them going. It would, but I wouldn't care what they thought. But I don't know, because they don't have a problem with my sexuality, and they don't have a problem with that I'm a member of that minority. They have no problem with that, but I don't know. But they might. She might say the same things when I'm not around about gay people that she says about you know what I'm saying?
Of course.
Yeah. So.
Not in my backyard.
Right. Exactly.
An interesting point. Maybe you could think that the media focuses too much on racial conflict, battles between blacks and whites, the Rodney King incident, that sort of thing, instead of maybe progress that is being made and focusing on that as well.
I think it's very important for the viewing public to recognize that what is being presented on television is a focused view. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but it's very important to remember you're just getting one window on reality. It isn't reality. It's just one window of reality. Yes. So I don't know how to answer your question. I don't want to say to you, stop looking. Right. But what I would say is that it's very important to look through as many windows as you can find. Because until you do that, you're never going to have a more comprehensive picture of what's going on. Okay? Yeah.